Everyone is rushing to build complex AI automation workflows, multi-agent system, RAG pipelines for each 7-node workflows that look like subway maps. But here's what I see every day building these for clients. People don't struggle because they advanced. Advanced stuff is hard. They struggle because they skip the fundamentals. They don't understand how data flows between nodes. They can't debug a simple expression. They copy paste templates and they have no idea why things break. Once you understand how n8n works at the fundamental level, every advanced workflow becomes obvious. AI agents, sub workflows, API integration, it all clicks. So today, we are walking through every essential concept and node in n8n. No fluff, no skipping ahead. This is the foundation that makes everything else easy in an 8N journey in 2026. If you don't know me yet, I am June. I am running a consulting business and having multiple apps. So I'm sharing all from my experience so that you don't have to waste your precious time on the hype and fluff. So throughout the video, I will jump back and forth between our presentation and our n8n, and I will walk you through all the nodes and all the concepts you have to understand before even you start creating your workflow. Coming back here, what is n8n? N8n is a visual workflow automation tool. You can think of it Lego blocks for automation. You drag and drop nodes, connect them together, and they execute in sequence. And it's open source, has many integration tools, and native AI supports like built-in link chains so that you can quickly build AI agents with memory, vector store, etc. All of these terms you don't have to understand right now. And from my experience, it gives you a lot more control than Make or Zapier.com. So the first thing is you have to start. How do you can start is there are two options. One is n8n cloud, and the other one is self-hosting or local hosting. And I always recommend n8n cloud version over other things, even though you can save a little bit more money. From our experience, to stay on the cloud, you get the most supports and the most recent updates. So your very first workflow can be done in 3 steps. Add a manual trigger node, and you ask information through HTTP request, and you execute the workflow, and it gives the data back to you. That's it. You just build your first automation. Here, if I'm coming back here, our n8n workflow, it can be like this, and manual trigger node, and there is HTTP request, and we got some answer, and probably you are using code node, and with that code in the JavaScript, then you are parsing some data and it gives you back email and send message like this. So you get some information, you parse it, and you send message back to somebody or to yourself. So this is basic workflow. But before we touch any nodes, you need to understand these 4 things, in my opinion. And if you don't understand these, it will be more confusing to you. So the first thing I want to touch is actually credentials. So n8n, inside the n8n, we have many external services like data for SEO projects, or RSS feeds, or Google YouTube data API. All of these require some external services, and to get connected with them, we need credentials. Going back to number 1, workflows. Workflows, we call it a series of connected nodes that automate a task. So like I said in the previous slide, trigger, action, condition, processing, and send data is a flowchart that actually runs. And nodes are the building blocks of every workflow. Each node is one of these 4 types. Either trigger something, or act something, or do some logic and data transformations. So if you have this, meta understanding, you can categorize all of the nodes into these 4. So, it's a trigger. We're acting on something. We're processing data. We're changing the data sets, etc. And execution is every time a workflow runs, and it creates an execution log. It records input data, every processing step, every output, and any error so you can debug quickly and effectively. And you will see all the data in here. So since we never run for this library, we have no records here. So now let's go through every node you need to know. By the way, all of this PDF and the innate workflows that showed you all the basic nodes you need to understand what we share in our free AI community. I built this community to share all the important things that matter to you without hype and fluff. So please join our movement, and we already have more than 200 members. Anyway, getting back to this, and I will go one by one. I categorize nodes into different groups. And the first group is trigger. And trigger is are the starting points for all of your workflows. We have different trigger nodes, but from our experience of building more than 100 agents and workflows, schedule trigger, execute workflow trigger, webhook, manual sometimes for testing, 90% of your time, you will only use these four. So you can forget these. Probably even manual trigger we're not using a lot. Many times we are using scheduled trigger to run it on scheduled time, like scraping data for content marketing, scraping data for SEO marketing, or webhook to trigger from our dashboard, Airtable, etc., or execute a workflow if we have sub workflows. So these are three major triggers you have to understand. So already done, we don't have to understand other parts. Then, and the next one, we touch this one, this one, this one. And the next one is transformation. Nodes for manipulating. So I think a lot of people misunderstand the role of automations or agents. It essentially, we are taking a ton of data and we are processing behind the scene without knowing much code. That's my understanding. And to do that, one of the essential part is data transformation. Data transformation means we are manipulating, filtering, converting data between steps. So we are fitting the right data for the next actions. Like I described here, these are the workhorses for any workflows. In data transformation, we have three subcategories: routing decisions, data shaping, list, and file handling. So the first routing decision is basically based on this logic, we are branching out, have different options for the next steps. If we are using if node, it will be two. And if we are using switch node, it can have multi-branch more than two passes. So three passes, four, five, six. It goes on. And data shaping is we can add it directly, edit fields. This one is useful if you have a hard-coded data for each time. And also code node. Code node is one of the most important things. You can shape data a lot more dynamically than any other nodes. And we are using code nodes a lot. And the way we are using code node is we'll have inputs in, we'll have outputs in the end. So some data transformation, some logic is inside here, and you can write a Python or JavaScript here. Merge node is basically we have combined data from different branches. Let's say if we have multiple paths from previous step, we can use merge node to combine all of them or to match them with a specific condition. And split out, aggregate, these are the nodes that we use a lot. Split out is simply we have arrays and we are using individual items. And aggregating is we're combining items back to single item. And these two nodes being used a lot for looping, before looping, and after looping. Before looping, we many times split out arrays to go through each item, and we are aggregating all the data after we go through all the loops. And sort is simple, and remove duplication limits are simple. Extract from file, many times if we are handling images We can use extract from files from like base64 to JPEG image, etc. And Markdown HTML, we use a lot this one to generate a simple PDF or simple reports. In flow control and core, we have these nodes control how your workflow runs, not what it does, but the order, timing, and structure. So for example, loop over, we didn't handle in this logic and data transformation, right? And we are going through item one at a time. This is very important concept. By default, then if you have five items, and then you have next nodes without loop, it waits all the execution are being completed for the previous nodes and move to the next ones. If you don't have a lot of batch to go through, you don't even need to use the over items. But when you have a lot of data, and then if you want to save each one before moving to the next one or having certain action items, you are going to use loop over items. And wait, we obviously know that this is helpful for waiting your nodes before doing next actions so that you can save rate limits or prevent from pushing out your workflows too hard. I don't think I use a lot for other ones, so I will skip it. And what are the next ones? Is AI knows and chains. Yeah, now things become more interesting, right? So we are having intelligence AI knows and chains support with LLM structured output and content for the output. So basic one, I use this one only a few times, so I will skip this. Sometimes we are using summarization chain. By default, it just takes the input and summarize it for you, and then it gives you back as an output. So it's great for summarizing some newsletter content, some SEO blog contents, newsfeed, etc. In text classifier, if you have very specific classifications, for example, one of our products is a Reddit signal system, and then we are classifying content based on a few conditions for our clients. In that case, a text classifier is very useful. And sentiment analysis, we have not used a lot, so I'm going to skip it. Let's use this one, structural outputs. This is so important, and many times AI output will not look like as you expected in the beginning. So you have a few ways to force them to parse the way you want to see. The first one is you can use the JSON example, or the second one is you can give them some JSON schema. And all of this, honestly, you can use Claude quickly. If I'm going here, and you can fix many times here. Some give me some JSON schema for your case. Then with a few iterations, you will figure out how do you give them a structure. The second thing is agents. So agents is even more interesting and controversial in my opinion. So the reason why I said is controversial is many times people overuse AI agents. Some of the data transformation you can use just code node. Code doesn't cost any LLM codes and a lot faster, but people just overuse AI agents everywhere. You need to have some experience by building a real use cases. You will figure out the cost analysis and everything. What is the better option? But AI agents, in my opinion, you are using when you need AI reasoning to your workflow. This means answering questions, making decisions, call tools, depending on some certain conditions, etc. And here in a agent node, you can add a base chat model. For simplicity, our team is using OpenRouter all the time so that you can have multiple different models without changing the configuration. Very useful. And you can add chat memory, and you can add a tool like a vector database or a sub workflow, etc. AI agent node is very useful, but over the time you will learn you really need AI agents for all different cases. And AI tools, I mentioned here, you can call software flow, you can call code tool, HTTP requests, many other tools. And here AI models, we have different models, but our team is using Open Router mainly, and we don't, so that we can't forget about any other stuff. And here also, like we have, if you want to have a memory, we can add a Postgres. You can quickly set up with the Supabase and use it, or a Redis, or a buffer for a simple setup. And here, vector memory and RAG. And this is pretty interesting. In all of our production workflows, we put everything into vector database for important materials, use cases, PDFs, or like blogs for our clients. So whenever we are generating the output, we're looking at the vector memory first so that we are referring to the right data sources. Content becomes more similar to our client tone of voice, or the outcome is a lot similar to what they expected. So vector is very important. MCP, I wouldn't deal with this one right now. Error handling is underappreciated, but from our experience, when you do production level workflows or agents within a DAN, error handling becomes a must for notifying your clients or your team whenever it breaks out so that you can quickly come back to the workflow and fix it and keep it live without any issues. So error handling, you can trigger or you can stop an error or you can do execute, continue on failure with some of the logs or retry logic. And here in the giving you example here, if there is an error here, retry on fail and max tries 3 times, wait between tries, or stop workflow, continue using an error output. This way you can handle different use cases when it has error. And that's also important when you build any kind of software, including this NADM. You have to understand the edge cases when it will fail. And you have to cover those cases better than just happy path. And if I'm moving to here, app actions, we have many different app actions. I want to put this way. All of these app actions, you don't have to understand everything at once. You will learn over time. Oh, if you want to integrate with the Google Calendar, you will figure out some of the items. And many times you don't even have to understand everything they offer, probably 2 to 3 actions. So the best way is don't obsess with knowing all of it, just flow. And whenever you need to understand things, just do it one at a time. And also, I want you to understand all of these are basically we are retrieving information from somewhere, we're processing data in some ways, and then we are putting into next nodes for different actions, or we're sending back to clients. That's all. So, with that perspective, you don't have to get scared of 400 plus built in integration or whatever. So, that's my 2 cents on this one. But more important thing is just kind of basic things, data types in an ADAN. And if you look at it, a lot of people skip these, but it will hold you back at one time if you don't understand. So there are only a few data types in an ADAN: string, number, boolean, array of objects, nested object. So string is very simple, like hello world, email address, or their URL, etc. And number is obvious too, 42, -100, decimal points, boolean, true, false. Array, you can put everything here. Array is very common. People put array of string, array number, array of different types, or array of objects. So when you are dealing with API call, eventually you have to understand this object. Object is just data they shape to describe certain objects. So let's say person. What is the property of person when you describe person? Name, age, ethnicity, city they live, zip code. So these are objects. An array of objects are one of the most common data types you will see when you do a lot of API calls here and there. And nested is the same. You don't have to get scared again. It's like user. When we define user, how we will shape data to describe user. Okay, user definitely has name and display name, address, probably billing information, tier, subscription model. Like you will get exposed to a lot of these nested objects, array, string number, boolean. And we have this expressions. Some people call it advanced, but I don't think it's advanced at all. So basically, we have JSON and the node way, the node name. These two are probably the most important things you want to understand. So JSON, we are pointing out the current items, and JSON, that field name here is the way you can access to a property that is being passed from previous node. So JSON name, JSON email, JSON amount, JSON status. From there, in this double curly bracket, you can access to those properties dynamically, or you can even do some calculation like this, like ternary operator we call, and where is it active? Then yes, it is not active, then no. Or length, is that length is more than zero, then true. Otherwise false. Or lower cases, you can transform some of the data from like a camel case to all lowercase or all capital case. Or if you have a multiple ones, you can add into, you can join arrays to make comma string or the other way. So this is not special at all, but I just put it in here because it can be confusing when you start out. So far, we've touched the different nodes from triggers, data transformation, flow control, AI nodes, AI agent, tools, models, vector database, MCP, and data types, header handling, and a little bit of how to deal with expressions. So if I'm going back to our slideshows, we touched all of these, and I mentioned this one. And the reason why I skip use cases is once you understand this, it will become your second nature. And second, using Cloud Code or Cloud, now you can handle, or even ChatGPT, you can ask these questions and they answer pretty accurately. So you don't have to understand everything in implementation layer. I want you to understand at higher level. I want to touch like a common patterns we would find in workflows. First thing is always there is a trigger, and then we get the input. Simple chat agent, for example, is we get a trigger from user input, and AI agents will handle that input in some ways, and we are responding back to our users. Cloudbot, for example, is just wrapper like this. So at A10, our team was able to implement these way before Cloudbot came. User put something from their Telegram, we process something, and we responded back to their Telegram. I emphasize the importance of the RAG system so that you put as much context as possible into RAG systems and put it in the vector database. And when user asks a question, we are searching through a vector database instead of just a regular database to find semantically best answers for your user. You can read this PDF and 3 real world workflows people pay for. This is important for you. These parts can be important for those who are just starting out and looking out to become AI expert. And these 3 real workflows people would pay for. The first thing is automated SEO audit or SEO content. We have a full 360 SEO engine for our clients. To give you an idea, they can research and they can do gap analysis. They can find out opportunities for next blogs, and they can set up the content, see the drafts, and see the published content, and they can update it. They have full over 2,600 words and in performance, all of them. They can check out even AI visibility. They can run audits. So at this part, like I showed you here in our production layer, this will be always very useful for many marketing teams. And the second part is AI powered Q&A system. A lot of companies, they have a scattered documentations from all over the places. And if you aggregate all of them into one major system where their employees, their people can search quickly to save their time and to reduce the fractions in their communication layer between either client facing, like Q&A bot, or like internal usage. This will be very useful for any team. And business idea finder from Reddit, we've started with this one, but we also improved this one as a Redis signal system where we are looking out some phrases and keywords that our clients want to rank for in the Reddit, and we are saving. We are giving signals for that to our customers so that they become the first responder in those inquiries in the Reddit. So Reddit can be gold mine for any B2B teams. I've touched all the important information about information to master in ADAN, and all of this PDF, like I said, this PDF and all the basic workflows will be shared on our AItopia free AI community. So you can check that out. In the next video, I will share some of the real workflows like this. So to give you an idea, we created this TikTok agents that retrieve the viral content. So we have profile where we register as competitors or influencers, thought leaders, where we want to check out daily, and we put them in each profile, and we're looking through each of them, and we retrieve TikTok videos, and we are processing data here, and then we're saving into Airtable with the viral check. And if it has any viral, we send notification to our team in the Slack so we can quickly check and we can move accordingly. So that is the power of automation. And it looks simple. I want to mention this. A lot of people think, oh, you have to have 47, 60 nodes or 200 nodes to make things valuable. Many times it's not. It only makes your system fragile. So if you have those many nodes, practically you have to make it much smaller to work together. And so always think from practical use cases perspective, not from only technical. That is 2 cents. Once you understand these nodes, I highly recommend to build from Cloud Code or Claude so that you can save some time for initial setup. I sincerely hope this video will be the last video you will watch about tutorial for NADAN, and get out of tutorial hell. Start building practical use cases that will save your time, money, and resources for your business.